Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the second session in the Encode Polkadot Educate series. Today we have a very exciting talk. I hope you enjoyed our launch on Tuesday. And if you didn't catch it, I hope you've been able to catch up on YouTube. Make sure to join our Discord server so you find out whenever the recordings are posted. So today we have a really interesting talk from Sergej, who is the lead developer and founder of RegionX, which is a project built on top of the new Agile Coretime model in Polkadot. He is a core contributor in Polkadot and Substrate and a member of the Polkadot Technical Fellowship. So I'm sure you're going to really enjoy his talk. As I welcome him to the stage, I'd love to know where everyone is calling in from. What time is it where you are? I am calling in from London, and it is 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which I think, hi Sergej, is a very good time to be watching one of these sessions. But let me know what the time is where you are. 5 o'clock from Lorenzo, 9 a.m. for Mariano, 8:30 p.m. from Ravi. That's a late night entertainment for you. Okay, very nice. Whenever you're ready, feel free to share your screen. Good afternoon, Tristan. Stefano's in London with me.
Okay,
Sergej.
you should hopefully see my screen now.
Yep, I can see your screen. It looks perfect.
Okay, great. So before I start, I mean, there was already an introduction about me, but yeah, I'm the lead developer and the founder of RegionX. You can find some of my socials here on the presentation, and there is also a QR code where you can find all of the links at one place. Yeah, let's start with the presentation. This is kind of an overview over what we're going to go through during the presentation. But instead of going through these things now, I will just start with the presentation. So with Polkadot 2.0, we have kind of had this perspective shift. Not sure if you have watched the Polkadot Decoded presentation by Gavin Wood from last year. If not, I highly recommend you watch it. There is a QR code here, but essentially he talks about this perspective shift. Polkadot can be seen as a decentralized global supercomputer. It essentially has many nodes that are part of this network. All of them have some of their own roles. Some of them participate in the consensus as validators. Some of them are archive nodes, and some of them are, for example, RPC nodes. But essentially, it is this global computer that can be accessed by anyone and can do some computation and have some persistent state. So this global computer, compared to other blockchains, let's say like Ethereum, instead of having all of these nodes verify the same things, it splits its validator set into smaller groups. We refer to this often as a core, like a computer core. And essentially, each of these cores is able to verify a unique task on its own. This way, it can process many things in parallel, and this way it is able to scale pretty efficiently. So for a project to be deployed on Polkadot, it needs to reserve time on this core, on one of its cores, and this is what we refer to as core time. So because Polkadot is really this global computer, initially it had a focus on things that are called parachains. They are essentially layer 1 blockchains that are deployed on Polkadot. But things that are deployed on Polkadot do not have to be strictly parachains. They just need to be compiled to WASM code and have this state transition validation function. So this is really something that is more generic, and this is why in this 2.0 model, and later we are gonna refer to these things as tasks. And also with Jam, which is still not implemented and still under development, there will be some even like more interesting things being able to be deployed on Polkadot, like having smart contracts directly running on one of its cores. So before going into Agile Coretime, I'm going to go over how was Coretime allocated in Polkadot 1.0. For a parachain to be deployed on Polkadot, it needed to reserve one of this core, and this was happening to parachain slot auctions. So it had to win a slot, a parachain slot, and each parachain slot was occupying an entire core. This means that the number of parachains getting secured by Polkadot is limited to the number of cores Polkadot has. Also, each of these slot auctions has to be reserved for a minimum of 6 months and mostly up to 2 years. To read about this model a bit more, there is also a QR code that can be found here in the presentation. So essentially, what is the issue with this slot auction model? Why is there a need to come up with something like Agile Coretime? Well, as I said, each parachain is allocated an entire core. This means that even though the parachain might not need that all of the resources of an entire code, that is still the only option. So no matter the use case or how much users and transactions the project has, it must reserve an entire core on Polkadot. And this is very inflexible, and it is also limiting the number of projects being able to be deployed on Polkadot. Also, these projects have to pay for an entire core, even though they do not often use all of the resources available. So another issue is also that there is no cost predictability for parachains. Parachain might win a slot auction for, let's say, and reserve a slot for 2 years, but after the slot is complete, they will have to bid again for the slot, and there is really no predictability on how much DOT tokens will have to be locked to win this slot auction. So what does the data show? So essentially, most parachains really do not need resources that an entire core provides. We have created this Polkadot Weigher tool. There is a link which you can go to and check the consumption of some of the parachains, but I provided 2 examples here. For example, Moonbeam, which is one of the most popular parachains on Polkadot, and it has a lot of transactions and users, but even in its current form, it does not consume an entire core. It consumes maybe up to 30% of the core time. So what are the other issues? As I said, so parachain had to reserve a slot for at least 6 months. This makes it very hard for some maybe experimental projects to deploy on Polkadot because it does not support really a way for them to be deployed on over some shorter period of time. Also, the slot auctions did not generate a revenue for the Polkadot ecosystem. This is because the tokens were not spent for reserving a slot. Instead, they were only locked over that period of time. This means that no tokens were actually spent. Even though we often mention these bad sides of the slot auction model, it actually has a pretty nice feature that is actually not provided with the Agile Coretime model out of the box. So it is this crowd loan model. This means that any parachain that was bidding for a slot had the opportunity to involve their community in this process. In case the project has a strong community, and they can utilize that for for the auction process, essentially to more easily be able to win the slot. And the way they were doing this is by incentivizing their community, their users, to put DOT token onto their bid, and for this receive rewards in case they actually manage to win the slot. This made the auction process decentralized because anyone can contribute to it. Anyone can contribute their DOT tokens to it, and this way the community behind the projects can be involved in this process. So now the problems that we mentioned, are all of them really fixed with Agile Coretime? And they kind of are, but not out of the box. Agile Coretime provides this much nicer system that allows projects like RegionX to be able to build on, but the core solution is pretty much unopinionated, and all of this logic is on a dedicated Coretime chain. It provides so yeah, let's go over it. It essentially provides two ways for Coretime procurement. One of them is purchasing Coretime in bulk from the dedicated Coretime chain. There is essentially a sale happening every month where parachains can bid on winning a core. Slot auction model, however, this takes place every month, and there are multiple cores sold at once. And the other option is purchasing instantaneous core time, which is essentially for projects that want to pay for core time on demand. So not ahead, but during their operation, continuously pay for the core time they use. However, there are some benefits to bulk core time. It offers some it actually offers cost predictability for anyone who is owning an entire core. This is not available for instantaneous core time. And also, projects that do use an entire core will always have the option to renew. This way they have the cost predictability, but they are also always guaranteed to have core time if they pay this price. Also, an interesting property of bulk core time is that it can be traded, because essentially it is represented as kind of NFT. So it is possible to transfer them and this way build some marketplace for it. And also it can be subdivided. So maybe a core time region, this is the thing that you get when you purchase when you make a purchase on the bulk market. It has it gives you access to a core over the next month, but you can actually subdivide this core time region into two new parts, one of which maybe lasts the first 1 week and the other one the later 3 weeks. And by subdividing, the owner can sell one part of it on the market and keep the other one to themselves. So what are the remaining issues? The system still only offers one entire core. This means that the issue we had with the slot auction model is still here with Agile Coretime. No matter how much core time does the project need, its only option is to get an entire core by using only this the core things that Polkadot provides. The price predictability is available, but it's only available for projects that own an entire core. So if this core time region is subdivided, there is no longer the option to renew it. Also, the community is no longer involved. So there is no such thing as crowd loans like we had with the previous slot auction model. And this goes back to the first point, a lot of resources are still wasted. This is because this system still only gives out full cores. the projects bidding for it. So what are the solutions? Essentially, we are able to make solutions because we have a much better platform to build on. RegionX is essentially able to cover these shortcomings of Agile Coretime thanks to the infrastructure that is now provided. And this is where community solutions come into play. When developing RegionX and when planning on how do we want to fix these things, we often see and also think ourselves of the cloud analogy. This is something that often comes up with Agile Coretime. However, there is a reason why this is not a perfect analogy. The main reason is because most of these projects deployed on Polkadot share the goal of being these self-governing, decentralized entities. So compared to some like regular projects on Web 2.0, they should not rely on a selected few for them to keep their operation. So they share the goal of being decentralized entities essentially, and this is not something that we have with Web 2.0 projects. But also this is something that was solved with the crowd loan model that we had in the slot auctions, because anyone holding DOT can make the decision to contribute to a project that they consider useful. Okay, so what are we essentially building at RegionX? We are building a couple of things. So we are building this secondary marketplace where Coretime regions, these NFT tokens essentially can be traded. So this makes it possible for someone to purchase a core from the bulk market, subdivide it, and sell it on the secondary market, the parts that they do not need, and maybe leave the parts that they do need for themselves. We are also adding this community component back. It is kind of similar to the crowd loan model, but also a bit different. We are also working on some UI tools, common modules for integration with the marketplace and with this kind of crowdfunding model that we're building. Also, on the initial slides, I showed you the graphs which show the consumption of parachains. We are also working on that tool to make it easier for parachains to predict, not really to predict, but to see the data on how much core time they are using, and based on that make decisions on how much core time they might need in the future. So in the following few slides, I will go over how does this core time procurement work with the RegionX UI. So this is the bulk sale, the bulk market that I talked about previously. So there is one every month, and it has three different phases. The initial phase is this. I will go over this shortly, but initially if we have this interlude phase during which anyone who owns an entire core can renew the core for the renewal price. And if they renew during this period, they're guaranteed to keep having core time for their own project. After the interlude period is complete, the lead-in period will start. This is kind of a Dutch auction where the price starts off really high and it goes down. So people can purchase core time at a price that they think is appropriate, but the more they wait, the greater the risk that they will not have core time because others already purchased it at a higher price. And after the leading period is the fixed price period. Ideally, you would purchase core time during this phase because this is where the price is the lowest. However, there is also a great risk that by this time, all the core time is purchased. So after purchasing core time from the bulk market, you receive this core time region, and it has a few properties. It has this core occupancy. This is essentially how much of the core's resources is it able to consume. So the task that is assigned on this region, how much of the resources is it able to consume. So initially, if you do not interlace it, which I will go over later, it will be at 100%. So you will essentially own the entire core, like in the slot auction model. You also have this consumed property. Since the region is starting in the next month, the moment it starts, it's getting consumed. And by the end of the month, it will go to 100%. So the region is consumed and it cannot really be used for anything at that point. So interlacing and partitioning, these are two ways you can like split a region. Interlacing is essentially allows you to buy an entire core and split it in two ways such that both of them, let's say, have 50% of the core's resources. This means that you can have two projects simultaneously use a single core. So for example, if your project does not consume an entire core, but instead, let's say, 30-40% of its resources, you will be fine to split it in half essentially and sell the other part on the market to someone else who is also not using all the core resources. The other option is region partitioning. So this allows you to select a pivot point and in that sense split the region into two new regions that are non-overlapping. So in this case, the first region will start at day 0 and end at day 3, and the other one will start at day 3 and when the region ends. Also, of course, once you are the region owner, you are able to assign any task to it. So this can be a parachain. In the future, this can be something else. But essentially, this is how you actually assign your task to a core on Polkadot. I will now go over like this community component. How are we bringing back the community involvement into the core time procurement process? So I will go over this in a couple of slides. Essentially, each parachain should collectively decide how much core time they actually need. This, given that most parachains, not all of them, some of them might be private projects, but they should collectively decide on how much core time do they actually need. This is not something that the team should decide. This is something that should be voted on chain. And this is something that we can have on parachains deployed on Polkadot. Have them vote on chain on how much resources do they think they will actually need. Once that is determined, the parachain will be able to automatically, as I said, it should really not be a person going to the website and purchasing a core for a project that's already existing. Instead, this should happen automatically, and this way we remove human error, so it is much more reliable. So based on the data that was decided in this previous process, it should create this, we call it a core time order. So it essentially defines what are the requirements. So let's say it needs at least 1/3 of a core's resources for itself. So once that's made, community, anyone with DOT tokens is able to contribute to this core time order. And like in the crowd loan model, it is likely that most parachains will define some rewards so that DOT holders are incentivized to contribute their own DOT tokens to this core time order. Of course, the parachain can also automatically by itself contribute to its own order. This would also be defined by its governance, or the team behind the parachain can also make contributions. So there is no restrictions on who can actually contribute to this core time procurement process, to this core time order. And there we have these core time traders. These are likely not going to be people sitting at a computer and seeing the orders, but instead some automated programs that keep track of the bulk market, keep track of the orders that exist, also keep track of the secondary marketplaces. And once they see a profitable opportunity, they will sell the core time to the parachain. And for doing so, they will receive all of the data collected by everyone who contributed to that order. Also, once this happens, depending on the parachain, all the contributors will receive some rewards in the parachain's native token, or however they define. So essentially, the contributors will be rewarded for contributing their DOT tokens for the core time procurement. So also, anyone can trade core time. There are no restrictions. These traders, as I said, would track the bulk market, the secondary marketplace, and just wait for a moment when they see a profitable opportunity to fulfill that order with core time region. Okay, we also want to make this process that I described easy for parachains, and we are essentially doing that by making these highly generic modules that parachains are able to integrate, and actually through this integrate with RegionX with this order model and get core time for themselves. Okay, so what are the future plans and like the current state? We have deployed a testnet parachain on Rococo. This is like testnet on Polkadot, and here anyone can buy core time from the bulk sale and sell it on the secondary market. We are also working on, as I mentioned, these generic, highly customizable modules that parachains can use to easily integrate with the marketplace with this order model, and that way get core time without having to purchase an entire core from the bulk market. We are planning to have the Kusama launch soon, most probably in September. And also, we will have the Polkadot launch once everything is audited. We are sure that everything is working as supposed. So this will take us some time, but should happen at the start of 2025. And yeah, I think we probably do have time for questions, but in case you have a question, you can also ask over any of the socials. Okay.
Thank you so much for that talk. That was really, really interesting and so well explained. Yeah, every question that I had, you then answered 2 minutes later. So I don't have any questions, but we have a couple in the chat. So first of all, Vitor at the start of the session said that they recognized you and had you done a talk at Polkadot Decoded, and someone else has come back in the chat and said, yes, he has. Here's his talk, and they've linked your talk in the chat. So that question has been answered. But then he's asked, does renting core time imply just using CPU resources or also using other parachain dApps? Parachains dApps.
So essentially, each project deployed on Polkadot is living kind of in its own world. So essentially, it means like deploying on Polkadot means reserving like this core time on one of its cores, and like once it's deployed on Polkadot, it can communicate with other projects on Polkadot Not sure if that answers the question. No.
Vitor, if that's answered your question, just let us know. Otherwise, feel free to follow up. David has also asked a really interesting question. What's to prevent whales, including big chains, from buying a lot of the available core time and then making a profit on the secondary market? So is there a way, is it possible to act in that way? And is it possible to prevent bad actors from doing that?
Yeah, that is actually possible. However, this system works in a way that it makes it pretty hard. So this bulk sale has these three phases that I mentioned. It starts off with a really high price. So if someone wants to buy all of the core time before anyone else buys core time, they would probably have to buy it at a really high price. And once they do that, the price will actually very much increase in the next sale. So it makes it really hard to do this continuously. And also, I mentioned that projects that do own entire cores have the guarantee to be able to renew their core time during the interlude phase. So even if a whale would purchase all of the core time in the next in the lead-in period, they would still have core time because they are the full core owner and they renewed it, and they are guaranteed to have this core time. But again, I mean, purchasing core time in the leading period, it's really not something that is I mean, it's not something that can be continuously done. It's because the pricing model was actually updated recently to make this much harder to do, because it has a really high starting price and it goes down from there. So if someone was to purchase the core time at this high price, in the next sale, this price would be even higher than that, 10 times higher than the sellout price.
That's very interesting. So Vitor has followed up and said, is core time just CPU access to the Polkadot nodes?
It's not just CPU, because I mean, for each parachain on Polkadot, we are not storing all the state. Instead, the head data of the block is stored. So essentially, it is also storing this the state root of the parachain and whatever is there. So yeah, data as well.
Ravi has asked, will parachains and slots be removed completely and the core time renting is the new approach? Because parachains are more like chains for domain specific. How does the new model fit?
Yeah, the parachain slot auction will be removed. However, any parachain that already owns a slot, that won't be cancelled. So if they have a slot reserved for the upcoming 1 year, they will still have that for the upcoming 1 year. And there is a nice transition to the new model, because they would get an entire core like by the end of the slot, and they will have the possibility to continue renewing. So it is there is a transition process.
Cool. Jay has asked, when will this change be rolled out? Is there any timeline?
The chain?
Change. When will this change be rolled out? Is there any
Oh,
timeline?
so Agile Coretime is already on Kusama. I think it should go on Polkadot in August. So yeah, in August.
So very soon.
Very soon,
Is
yeah.
the timeline. Vitor has said, got it, thanks. So thank you for explaining that. Does anybody else have any questions? While we give it 1 minute to see if anyone else asks anything, I just want to thank you for that really interesting talk. A couple of people are typing, so we'll give them. Oh, Matthias has just arrived. Don't worry, you have missed the session, but we'll upload the recording before the end of the day tomorrow, and you can catch up. Ravi is followed up asking, is core time expanded on the parathread concept?
So there is, the parathread concept is essentially, let me find it. So it's where is it? It's here. So we are no longer referring to it as parathreads. It's essentially this instantaneous core time model. Instead of parathreads, it's named on-demand paratrains essentially, but it's kind of it's the same thing as parathreads.
Thank you, Ravi says. Awesome. So a couple more people are typing, so we'll let them write whatever it is they want to write. What was I saying? I was thanking you for your amazing presentation, and letting everyone know that this session is being recorded and it will be uploaded tomorrow. So make sure to join the Encode Club Discord server so you get notified when we upload. We also send out notifications before every session so you know what time they start and what the topics are of the day. The typers have stopped typing. Oh no, they're back. Can Sergej stay here for another 6 hours and explain more of this? Vitor says. Do you have the next 6 hours free?
Not sure. I will have to check.
Not quite, but feel free to contact him. If you put your slide up with your Telegram on again, feel free to contact if you have more questions. He was only joking. He's followed up. We did get the joke. Don't worry, we didn't think that we were going to be here for the next 6 hours. So feel free to reach out to Sergej if you have more questions. I don't think anyone else is typing, so I guess we'll end it here. If everyone can thank Sergej for this brilliant talk in the chat, that would be great. It's lovely to see so many of you back here again today, and yes, Polkadot's future does look bright. We'll hopefully see you all next week for our next set of talks. Lots of thank yous in the chat for you. I'm not sure if you can see it. Yeah, awesome. Okay, we will see you all next week.